I met John in October last year, and right from the start, we clicked. We started dating in November, and oh boy, I felt really happy with him. Even though we didn't have much in common, except for attending the same college, we made it work, or at least I thought we did. John was outgoing and loved going out at night, hanging with friends. I'm not so much like that. I'm a bit of a homebody. I have my close group of friends, 3 or 4 girls, and that's about it. Despite our differences, I convinced myself he was the one when I brought him home, and he instantly clicked with my family. I have 2 younger brothers, and he got along with them well. My mom loved him too. After he left, she couldn't stop talking about how cute he was and how I had scored. I didn't think much of it. I figured she was just trying to make me feel good. My parents' relationship seemed like any other couple's in the 50s. The fire had gone cold, and they weren't as affectionate as they used to be when we were younger. I always thought that's how it was when you'd been married for 22 years. My dad worked a blue-collar job, and my mom worked for the city. It seemed like a normal life, but little did I know what was about to unfold. Looking back, I noticed that John would show up at my house unannounced when I wasn't home, and my mom would cook him something. When I asked him why he didn't let me know he was coming, he'd say my mom invited him for dinner. The strange thing was, my mom rarely cooked dinners. Strangely, I justified it in my mind, thinking maybe my mom was trying to bring our family back to how we used to be. Or perhaps she was putting on a front of a happy family now that she knew I had a serious boyfriend, and she was just playing a role. After I confronted him about it, he started letting me know whenever he was coming over, and my mom would be the one inviting him. I didn't want to seem like I was confronting my mom, but I felt like she should tell me first. After it happened a couple of times, it didn't feel right for my mother to be texting my boyfriend instead of texting me first, so I finally confronted my mom about it. She said that if he was going to be part of the family, he might as well start now. I found her answer insufficient, but never in my wildest dreams did I suspect that there was anything going on physically between them. The strange part was, he never wanted to introduce me to his family. I had to bring it up several times before he finally took me to his sister's birthday. Even then, he only did it after posting about it on social media, and I had to remind him several times. When I asked him why he was hesitant to introduce me to his family, he gave the excuse that he thought I wasn't the social type. I thought it was a lame excuse. There was always a nagging thought in the back of my mind that he didn't love me as much as I loved him. However, whenever we spoke on the phone, he always told me he loved me. It was confusing. I didn't know if it was just words, but I chose to believe what I wanted to believe at that time because it suited me. Even when I caught him gazing at my mom's behind during his visits to our house, I tried to rationalize it. I told myself that my mom was really curvy and had a large butt, and most guys would stare. I convinced myself that it was just a redeeming quality I didn't seem to inherit. I made excuses for him, thinking, why would a 22-year-old boy be interested in a 55-year-old woman? It's totally disgusting. That was my mindset at the time. Around March, he stopped showing up at my place randomly like he used to, and he was reluctant to come even when I asked him. When I questioned him about it, he said he was busy, but I suspected there was more to it. During that same period, one name kept coming up a lot from his mouth. Let's call her Jane. At first, I didn't mind because he had many friends, but things took a turn when he started going everywhere with her. Bars, shows, and they even ended up working at the same place. They practically saw each other every day. Meanwhile, I would only go out with John twice a week, and he wouldn't show up at my house. Even my mom stopped asking about him. I felt like I was losing him. It hurt every time he mentioned her name, but foolishly, I didn't say much. I'd just make sarcastic comments like, okay, have fun with her. His excuse was always that Jane had a boyfriend too. Then, almost at the end of May, he dropped a bomb. He told me he let her sleep at his house. At first, I tried not to mind, but I couldn't help asking him why he didn't check with me if I was comfortable with it. His reply? My phone battery was off. I felt deeply hurt, but he explained that after a show, I know, right? She didn't want to take a taxi home, so he offered his place. I tried my best to understand that situation. After that incident, things took a nosedive. Her name kept coming up, and I would only see John once a week. Then, in late June, I woke up to a text from John. He went out with Jane the night before to a friend's house and stayed very late. When the party was over, he let her sleep at his place again. I was so hurt. It was finally time to break up with him. I explained how much he had hurt me, choosing to spend time with her over his girlfriend. I even suspected he was cheating, but he dismissed it, saying, "Don't worry, she's just a close friend and she has a boyfriend." A few weeks later, I got a call from Jane's boyfriend telling me he was cheating on me and he was breaking up with Jane. Hurt and upset, I called John, and he admitted to it. Supposedly, we ended things on good terms and would stay in touch, but he never spoke to me again till I vandalized his car. More on that later. I went home crying to my mom, who offered comforting words. It took me a while to get over him, the one I loved, the one I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. The only consolation was that after we broke up, he and Jane also ended their relationship after just a few weeks. Even though I didn't love him anymore, I still felt like I needed an official apology for what he did to me. Little did I know that what he did was much worse than I thought. 3 months after we broke up, I got a call from a friend who said I wouldn't believe what she was witnessing. When I asked her what it was, she told me she was a few feet away from my mom and my ex-boyfriend, walking in the mall, sometimes holding hands and showing what seemed to be affection. Of course, I didn't believe it. She sent me several pictures of them together, and I couldn't believe my eyes. That's when memories of dinner invites, gazes, exchanging gifts at Christmas, and texting each other started flooding back. Words couldn't express how hurt I was. I couldn't fathom that my mom would betray not just my dad, but her own daughter. I was so angry that I wanted to confront her. But I knew she could say they accidentally met at the mall, or she would claim they were just shopping together. But that mall was way out of town, and my mom would never go there unless she had something to hide. That's when I realized something romantic was happening between my mom and my ex-boyfriend. I felt ashamed and unloved. My insecurities skyrocketed, and I wished I was dead. I had no one but my friend, who exposed them, to talk to. When I asked her what I should do, she suggested confronting my mom. But how could I do that? What if she denies it? I decided to snoop on her phone since they had been texting each other. However, my mom used an iPhone with face recognition, and she was very protective of her phone. I came up with a plan. That evening, when my mom came home, I tried my best to control my emotions. With my phone secretly recording, I handed her phone, pretending that I wanted to see if my phone took better pictures of a receipt I wanted to send. It was a bogus story, but the point was to capture her putting in her password. I had already attempted to open her phone multiple times, so the only option is to type the password. The trick worked. She typed her password slightly away from me, but my camera recorded it. Surprisingly, she didn't want me to use her phone and strangely insisted on taking the pictures herself and sending them to me, claiming she didn't want us to damage her phone. It was clear she was hiding something and using that as an excuse. I couldn't sleep that night. After my mom went to bed, I sneaked into my parents' room and took her phone while she was asleep. I brought it to my room, unlocked her phone, and went straight to the message section. What I saw was shocking. They had been texting since December of last year. We started dating in October and broke up in July, but my mom never stopped communicating with him. They never said they loved each other or anything, but what I saw was much worse. They were exchanging nude photos and sexting. My mom was sending pictures of her behind, and even sending pictures of what she was wearing for him to rate. She asked for workout advice, and they went to the gym together. I had no idea about any of this. I felt hurt and jealous, like he never loved me and was dating me just to get to my mom. It was obvious that their relationship was just about being friends with benefits. They even discussed our breakup while she was trying to persuade him to get back with me in a strange way, all while being intimate with him at the same time. It's really shameful. I felt like my world was falling apart, and tears streamed down my face as I took screenshots of her messages. I was so horrified that I went to my brother's room in the middle of the night to tell him about it. My younger brother is 19, and we're close. I showed him all the disgusting messages, and we decided to confront her that night. We went to my parents' room while they were both asleep and turned on the light, slowly waking them up. At this point, I was crying with snot all over me, unable to make up a statement except to ask my mom why. My dad was as confused as my mom, and my brother was behind me for support as I showed my mom her phone with pictures of her showing her behind. Then, I asked her if she was sleeping with John. My dad was shocked as soon as he heard this, and my mom immediately snatched her phone out of my hands, scolding me about snooping. My dad looked at her as if to confirm what I had just said, and my mom looked at him, yelling that I was lying. I walked towards my dad and handed him the screenshots. He got up from the bed and started yelling at my mom. This time, she changed her story, saying it was always a joke, and it never got physical. Even typing this conversation is still unbelievable to this day. How many people could say that their moms slept with their boyfriend? This is something adult movies are made of, and I couldn't believe I was caught in this predicament. The more my dad looked at the screenshots on my phone, the wilder his eyes got, and the more uncomfortable my mom became. A shouting match ensued between them, and my dad was yelling at the top of his lungs, saying things I hadn't heard him say to her before. All the pent-up frustration about their intimate life, and her blaming it on him, came to the forefront. He called her all kinds of unmentionable names and asked her to get out of his life. At some point, my dad was so upset, like I had never seen him before, and I even felt sorry for him. I started feeling selfish for not considering how it would make my dad feel, but I believe that I did the right thing, even though it ended up destroying my family. If it was a one-time thing, then it's a different story, but for over 7 months, my mom was sleeping with my boyfriend and continued when he became my ex. I still haven't recovered from this mess. I'm heartbroken, feeling betrayed and stupid. I want him to feel what I'm feeling right now. He destroyed my family and just walked away without any consequences. I wish harm upon him, and if I could, I'd hire people to make him suffer. I called him the next day, and he hung up on me after I asked him why he was involved with my mom and called him a piece of work. He didn't have the guts to face me, and when I tried calling his phone and showed up at his job, he was hiding from me. I slashed his tires and scratched his brand new car that he cared about, and he threatened to call the cops on me. I told him to go ahead because he had no proof that I did it. I can't only blame him because, at the beginning, my mom was the initiator. In fact, they were both into it, which was absolutely disgusting. His fascination with my mom's behind was something unexpected. I didn't know he had a fetish like that. I guess I didn't know much about him as we didn't date for very long. Anyway, after that night, my mom's life has been a living hell. My dad and my siblings don't want to talk to her or see her again. My dad is still reeling after all this was dumped on him, and we have been there for him as he hasn't been dealing with this well. It's surprising because I thought they were no longer that close, but the hurt and embarrassment are what's killing him. I see that he tried all he could to make the relationship work. He even told us that this wasn't the first time my mom cheated, but he thought they could make it work, and they went to marriage counseling after my younger brother was born. There is no doubt that my dad is getting a divorce, but he's still in the mourning phase of the relationship. I am sure I would never speak to my mom again, and I know she is not reaching out because she couldn't face us. How could she not expect this to come out at some point? How long was she thinking of going along with this? Has anyone had any similar experiences as me? Tell me that I am not the only person.